Hi, I'm Miki from Strange Spirit Paranormal, and I'm here with Kevin.
Kevin from Exploring Your Backyard, and we're also here with our team, Robert and Debbie from Spectra Researchers of Central Florida.
That's right, and we're here at Edinburgh Manor. And Edinburgh Manor is a gorgeous structure. It was first built around, I think they said 1846 instead of 1850, so that's disputed. It was originally a poor farm, so everybody that came here basically were indigent. They had to work the farm, they couldn't be disabled, but it was people that were poor, didn't have a home to live in, elderly, things like that, but they had to have some type of useful skill. And from 1850 until 1910, this worked as a poor farm. And what they would do is they would farm and they would sell their cattle, they would sell their vegetables. They fed themselves. It was a pretty efficient way. If somebody was poor, to put a roof over your head, you had a job and all your needs were taken care of, including medical needs. During that time, they said 131 confirmed documented deaths at least during that time. The next period of transition, they tore the old building down around 1910. From 1910 to 1911, they built the building that you have here. At that time, it was for people that were disabled, mentally disabled, people that were, elderly, didn't have any place to go, orphans. Sometimes they just dropped them off here. And there were children's even. If you couldn't afford to take care of your children, they would come here. Okay. So it kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah.
You no longer relied on everybody had to work the farm. So they would live here. And then by 1930, they said that because of the Depression, they didn't have children here anymore. So at that point, from 1930 on, it was all adults. And then it kind of catered to the disabled, mentally disabled. And this place was actually in operation until 2010. So that's pretty amazing. It has a long storied past. There's a lot of deaths that occurred here, and they are buried in unmarked graves. Some of the old sites, I know Ghost Adventures said that it was at the farmer's field across. I'm not sure if that's correct. I know that I'd talked to somebody else and they thought it might be in a different location. But anyway, the graves are unmarked. It's an interesting place. There are several resident spirits as we go and do through the walkthrough. And Spectral Researchers and I and Kevin are all going to investigate tonight and see what we can capture.
We have 2 nights of this place investigating. First of all, we're going to do... Oh, she's going to give him the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, we're going to do you a quick walkthrough. Miki is going to help me. She's going to walk through while I hold the camera, and we're going to see the whole inside and what we can do, and then we're going to do an investigation of the place. All right? So are we ready?
It's going to be a good night.
Yep.
Let's go. Okay, guys, we're getting ready to start this tour. We're going to start on the main floor, which is actually the second floor. There's a basement and there's one upstairs. So I'm going to show you what this floor has to share. Okay, we're going to head down this way. We're going to go to the east. That's the men's wing. So let me show you. At the time that this started out, all the women and men were segregated. They were never on the same hall. We're going to go all the way down, and we're going to start at the end and work our way back to the middle. Okie doke. Oh, this is a tough one. Okay. Have a good look at this. This was at the time, after a certain period, they did mix the men and the women. This is known for a specific reason. Quite sad. The story is, and I need to do some research on this, is that a woman that slept in this area, this bed, was actually being harassed by a male in the building. We don't know for sure if it was a male staff member or another patient, but they are saying that they believe it was a staff member, and that's what I heard when I was here in 2018. I will, of course, look to verify that, to see whether that story has any significant basis that I can document. So in this bed, this woman was actually raped on multiple occasions by either a staff member or another male patient. So in this room, they report that there's actually been a woman seen like in 50s attire, very neat and tidy. There has been some shadow movement in this room. There's actually been where they have put objects that have been manipulated, like a balloon that evidently one of the previous teams, they supported it with a...
Oh, no, I'm just looking at...
That sounds like a bird. I'm not sure what that is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hear jingling. So anyway, they supported the balloon with a domino, and the domino was to keep it in place on top of the dresser. And the team did their investigation, and then they left, going around. At the end of the night, they came back into the room, and this balloon and the domino, that would take incredible energy, was moved to the other side of the room on top of the dresser here. That's quite a distance. Well, you're doing IR into IR. That's quite the distance to go. So that is, you know, the claims for this room. So tonight we're going to do some EVP work in here. We're going to put some motion detectors, maybe some shadow detectors, and see what we get. So let's continue down the hall. We're going from east to west. We go this way, and you can see how long the halls are. We're going back toward the center hub. This end of the hall is very interesting. There's our command center we're putting together. Okay. So this end of the hall is significant for several reasons, and you're going to find out. I'll start with the nice part of it. There we go. Okay, this room is a family area. That's why the room's so big. So families that had children with them would go into this area, mothers and kids, or, you know, teenagers. This would be the area that they would have gone into. So you see where previous teams have left multiple different types of toys for the kids to play with. The story for this room is that there's a little girl named Susie, and she's been seen by several people. She'll also feel tugs on your clothing, like she wants to hold your hand. They said at first that she was kind of nasty and troublesome. She was angry, and then people started bringing in toys for her to play with, and she's gotten much more friendly, much more happy from what they're saying. Again, I'm going to go back and document all of the actual factual evidence that I can use to back all of this up, but this is what the story behind, the myth behind this area is. So probably in this area we're going to use some Boo Bears, some motion detectors, some things like that to see if we can capture a child. We're going to try to make them happy with fun activities, and hopefully we can make some contact with Susie. So that'll be fun. And that's for a child. Now guys, we're on the hall. It gets a little more sad. We come down this way, and I can verify this because this happened to me in my previous visit. This door right here, there's nobody at the end of this hall, and you're going to hear, this is a very heavy metal door. It's hard to push open, as you can see, it sticks. This is what you hear when nobody else is on this wing. And let me tell you, last time I was here with friends from D&M Paranormal. The last time I was here, that happened on multiple occasions. So tonight, I hope it happens again. Then, this is a rec area. This is where, you know, people would hang out. There, once in a while, we'll hear voices on this end of the hall. So that's interesting. Then we have, looking for Paul's room. Backing up. This is a big place, guys. So let's head back this way again. There's a little tiny room at the end here, and it's got a very sad history. In the 1950s, I believe, there was a man that was mentally disabled. His name was Paul. And Paul's mother had passed, who was his caretaker. And the family, I guess there was no one in the position to take him in at home. So what they did was they put Paul here. And about a week after he left, you know, a lot of people eloped from this place as they didn't want to be here, and evidently Paul was very unhappy. And Paul hung himself. Paul was very determined. He didn't hang himself from the ceiling. He hung himself from the doorknob. This doorknob has since been replaced because they wanted to put a modern lock on it, but this door has not. So Paul hung himself from this doorknob on this door and died here, which is very sad that he felt like he had no other options. Okay, we're going to try to get some EVPs. This is one of the sad things about this floor. We are now on the second floor of Edinburgh. We're going to head towards the east. We're going into the red room. Okay. You can see this room used to be two different rooms. They call this the red room because of the color of the curtains. That's how they identify. There were two ladies that were known to have been captured in this area. On this wall, there was a woman that was very mobile, and she actually, they say that she was more mentally impaired. So she's not as happy. She's a little more grumpy. Not mean, not evil, nothing like that. You know, it was her situation. And then on the bed over here, there's another woman that shows herself, and she's a little more active. She is very shadow figures, things like that. You'll hear noises. So this woman here is a little more active. Probably because at the time of her death, she was maybe able to do a little more. And then you will also notice this hallway here, and they say that there is a man that lived in this area that was very protective of women. So they will often see him in the hallway or the doorway. They feel like he's a good thing, that he keeps track and makes sure that the women are okay. I like that. That's a good thing. This is, we're not sure. There were people that were like the stewards that took care of this place. And we feel like this might have been their living quarters. You can see here where the doorway has changed. So we're thinking this might have been an administrative area where they lived on site with the patients. They were given free housing with their job. So they may have had husband and wife, I believe they said, that lived here.
So this door right here leads to the door that keeps open and closed that you hear from the break room.
Yes, because you know what? These doors actually continue all the way up to the attic. The problem with the attic, you know, I don't know if you guys saw a paranormal show that was popular, I'm not going to name it, that they thought that this red stain that was there last time I was here was blood. It's paint, so it's not blood. The upstairs has a board walkway, but it also has blown-in insulation, and the walkway, if you go off of it, you're going to go through the ceiling, so I don't think we're going to do anything up here. It doesn't have a lot of reports of activity. But just thought that was interesting to mention. Okay. Let's go this way. Oh, I know what I want to tell you about up here. There's so many stories and so many people. Okay, we're heading toward the west side. Here it is. This is room 200. She said that some of the rooms actually have the same number, so I don't know what the numbering system came from. This room has been pretty active. There's a couple reports in here. And what happened is the owner's boyfriend actually was here. And when they first bought this place, he stayed overnight. This was the only one in the building that had bedding on it, so he slept in this bed. And he called her and he said, and now this is a science-minded man that didn't believe in the paranormal, somebody's grabbing my feet. Of course, she's panicking. She's like, just come home and sleep. And he's like, he's a rational guy. He's like, no, I'm gonna stay. Well, he brought his dog in to stay with him that night that was sleeping in the bed with him, and the dog was growling and barking, and this is a mild-mannered dog, evidently, so that's out of character for the dog. So then they actually had another team come in later and related to the owner, but they had not told them his experience. And they said they captured an EVP, and they asked, what did you do to the man that slept here or stayed here overnight? And they said, I grabbed his feet. So that's pretty good validation that he was not making it up. Love it when stuff falls into place like that. Also, the dog was growling like at this radiator, and which doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would the dog be growling and barking and freaking out over the radiator? But the thing about it is that there has been a report of a little boy that has been sighted here on multiple occasions, a small boy. So if the dog was maybe growling at something and looking at something about this height, I would say that he probably was reacting to the child spirit. That makes sense to me. And if you have other eyewitness accounts, then, you know, of course, I would correlate that. You know, this place is amazing. There's still personal belongings. There's handwritten notes, grocery lists. There's all kinds of things to attest to the people that lived here. You know, when they shut it down in 2010, because the people had mental disabilities, they didn't tell them ahead of time that they would be leaving their home, because that would just cause behavior and anxiety problems. People would work themselves up worrying about what's going to happen to them. So pretty much it was shut down. We're taking the people on a bus and we're taking them to their new locations at night. They didn't know that was happening. But because of the way that they were able to deal with stress and their mental capacities, all of them had mental disabilities, they didn't tell them so that they would not get upset. Okay. Let me check this first. No, this is okay. It's dark, guys, so what you don't realize is that we're using a light. This is the blue room. There are two gentlemen in here. One of them, we believe was named Steve. You hear that?
Yeah, that's coming from the radiator or something.
It might be, but I don't think the heat's on, so why would it be the radiator?
I don't know, it's just coming from that area.
Yeah, over here?
Yeah.
There are gentlemen that are known here, not a bad thing at all, but in this room there's reported to be a man that liked alcohol when he was alive, and so a lot of people will offer him alcohol. I'm not going to do that. I feel if somebody was troubled by something in life, I'm not going to do that to him at death. That's just me.
Yeah.
You do you, whatever you want to use for targets. But there were two men in this building. This room evidently is pretty active. They say that you'll see shadow figures, you'll capture EVPs, and they'll interact with equipment quite a bit. So I'm pretty excited to try this to see if we can also back up the other claims. When I was here before, this room was off the chain. I had direct responses on the EMF, so I'm hoping that we get the same thing. We're going to do this floor tomorrow. I think this might be the psych room. Yep. I'll tell them about my experience here. Now, we believe, last time I was here, we were led to believe that this was a therapy area. Oh, look at that case. I'd love to have that. Anyway, this was a therapy area. So when I was here with another team, D&M, Dane and Jen, I'd like to give them a shout out. Hi guys, because I know you'll watch this. This room here was off the hook. We had, they got a display of a casket here, which is, they probably do it for Halloween or effect or tours or whatever. I don't know if this is chapel. I was told at the time that this was probably a therapy room, these two rooms. What we did was we were all sitting in a circle. Each of us had different EMF detectors, tri-fields, K2s. K2s have a lot of false positives, so you got to make sure you don't have other sources around here. But those were going crazy. And the thing about it is that that we were having direct response, and we would say, could you light up, we introduce ourselves, of course, light up this person's EMF, and that was happening. We were going from person to person. Now, if it was something outside setting off the EMF detectors, then you would think they would all go off. Not so much. We were having specific intelligent interaction in this circle, and it was an extended amount of time. So I bet you could probably find that stuff on some of our old stuff. And when I get this finally put together and put it on my site and give Kevin some footage, I'll probably have footage from that as well. And that's it for the second floor.
Last thing is the basement.
Oy, oy, oy. It's not my favorite place because I had a pretty crazy experience that was backed up by somebody else investigating with me.
Oh, wow, this is where they must prepare the meals and all that stuff, right?
They do, and the reports that go along in this area, it's crazy because we were talking about how when the county locked this up and ready to sell it in 2010, they basically left things as are. You know, patients' belongings are here. We were even talking about, look, there's still wrapped up silverware, and it's kind of gross. It's got like, yeah, it's been here a long time, paint chips and stuff all over it. There's silverware wrapped up for their dinner services. I mean, the reports here is that you're gonna hear silverware getting moved. Even though you can't see it being moved, you can hear it. You hear people with pots and pans swaying. You hear footsteps. You hear people working. And actually the owner observed this herself, where these doors opened on their own to the stove. So somebody's still working here. Got people to feed. They're still reliving that. Oh.
I go.
I know, but this is tough on. Okay.
You can just speak, I'll walk.
All right, let me get my bearings. Okay, this is where it happens for me. Okay, you know, they're talking about this demonic spirit here. Now, come on, guys. The dead are the dead. They were human. There are other things that probably exist, but the people that lived here, this was their life, this was their home. This man's not quite as friendly as everybody else. He didn't harm me, but he does have a temper, it seems to be. So he's reported to throw things, move things, knock things over. So that's something that he does. Mine and Dane from D&M both had the same experience. I started coming around. This is the basement. Do you remember when Ghost Adventures did this? That I think it was Billy or something, that there was a plate thrown at? Well, that's one of the claims, is that, you know, he throws things. So right where you're standing, Kevin, I came out of the boiler room, which I'll show you guys in a bit. There's a boiler room and a maintenance room. So I came out of that room and I started walking down the hall, and right in the door where you were, I saw a man, clear as anything, kind of like a cowboy. Dane and I saw them at 2 different times, and we had the same description. He was pretty clear, just as clear as you sitting there. You know, I could see features on him. Tall guy in a duster with a beard, kind of cowboyish looking. And we both saw the same thing. And so it startled him. He thought it was me in there because I came out before him. He thought he saw a person out the corner of his eye at first. He thought, well, it was me, turned and looked and saw this man. I came out here and saw him plain as day. So that's one of the things down here. Of course, you saw that probably on television about them throwing the plates, you know. The laundry's down here. We had some pretty interesting encounters here. We had all the teammates sitting around a table. It was actually headed the other way when this was happening, my previous investigation. And what happened was we had all of our equipment out, and we were getting intelligent responses to things. And I'm standing here, and another investigator was standing here who is a newer intuitive. Didn't have quite a handle on how to do things, but learning very fast and talented. And there were other people standing around. And this person seemed to be, at first I thought it was a child. And you never know what you're getting. you don't know who you're talking to, so you always should be cautious. And I was getting quite a bit of attention from this, and I thought it was a kid. And I'm talking to him, and I'm saying, you can come over closer to me. Well, I had at the time a teammate that's also a very good intuitive, and she said, Miki, something came in the room, and I don't think it's a kid. So I trust her beyond anything. I got mad that he was playing games with me, and I said to them, all right, that's it. I don't need this mess. You get away from me right now. So what does he do? He went directly from me, my equipment going off when it was going crazy, alarming, jumps to the end of the table where the new intuitive is and tries to jump her. Evidently, I wasn't a good target because I was coming back at them. He's like, okay, I'm gonna get someone that's not sure of their skills. Very talented, natural medium. And he started jumper. When my friend said, you know what, Miki, something came into the room, you could actually see from this area, it was dark already, but we had equipment, so we had a little bit of ambient light. It got dark right before all of the equipment started acting up. So I don't know what it was. I'm assuming it's probably Rusty, or they call him the Joker. That's not a very nice name. I don't believe he's a demon. I think he's somebody that's here that doesn't like to be bothered. I don't blame him. If I was in my home and people going about my business and people were constantly pestering me, I don't blame him.
Should we check out the boiler? No?
Yeah. We can.
And then we're getting out of here.
The boiler. Okay. You're just gonna make me do this, aren't you?
No.
I think I freak out in the boiler room because, you know, Freddy Krueger and all those movies.
Ah, yes.
So that scares the heck out of me. I'm not gonna go down here right now.
No.
A lot of people, there you see the original boiler, the heater for the building.
Yes.
My impressions, I'm just going to keep to myself on that because I don't have any backup. But we were working in here and we get intelligent responses in here as well. They're not quite so friendly. It kind of seems like they're irritated with the fact that we're here. If these are the guys that were workers here, they don't want to be bothered. If they're going through their daily motions, they don't want to be bothered. I get it.
I'll work with a couple.
Yeah. Okay. This floor's uneven. Watch, there's a step up behind you. This was the original workspace.
Yeah.
There's a workspace on the other end that has some activity I can show you. All right, we'll do that very last, then we're out of here.
Yes.
Because it's not my favorite area. Okay.
I see rooms over here to the right and left. What are these?
Well, there's the stand-up freezers and stuff. This is where they kept the food and prepared food.
Oh.
So they had a larder unit. They had stand-up freezers in here where you can see the shelving where they kept all of their supplies to cook for everyone. Because down here, I think this is stand-up freezers, you can see them.
Yes.
Big mixers, equipment, like industrial equipment and stuff. It's pretty interesting. Here's your light.
Yeah, we have light for in case anybody starts wandering down here. We
don't want somebody falling.
No.
And I'm a big chicken about this place, so there you go.
And she actually put it in here by herself.
I did all by myself. You got to be proud. This is a dining room area. So, of course, the kitchen is here. If they were physically able to come down,
yes,
they would go ahead. I'm watching the hall, watching for shadow movement because I know this downstairs is active. So they would bring the residents down here and they would eat. They would also have social events, like they would do dances and things like that down here. So it's not overly active, this part. But as far as I'm concerned, Edinburgh is different every day. There's enough going on that you'll capture different stuff every day.
What's behind you?
Yeah, you're going to make me do this.
No, what is that down there?
We need to do it anyway because there's some reports. Okay, let's go in this room. This is a workshop right here.
Piano?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. But anyway, this is a workshop. Yeah. This was converted and built on later. This wasn't with the original building. It's kind of echoing, I'm sorry. This is where they would bring the patients if there was a tornado or a bad storm. They would bring them down here, do activities, keep them busy. There was a storm door there. The reports are that you see a man standing in that door. He's been sighted a couple times. Enough that that is an area where they feel that there's some activity.
Now, is it true or those stories about people putting cages in basements? Is that?
We'll go there.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, this area here, that is now the workshop, they have a room that they thought there was called the cell, and probably it was for people that had behaviors that just could not be settled down. And originally they thought it was in this other area that I'm going to show you, but we found out that's not true because that area wasn't built until 1970, and that is right here. This area is, as you can see, was probably built to hold somebody that was, you know, a problem, elopement risk, behaviors, whatever. But this is a later room. This was built in 1970. This is more modern construction. So it probably has residual stuff in here too, but it's not the one that historically was called the cell. They believe it might have been down this area. And you can see that this was part of the original construction. This is now a workman's area, but this is great for paranormal investigation. You can see that 3 of these walls are actually limestone. So limestone's known for residual activity. It's part of that stone tape theory that they believe that it kind of can run some paranormal activity. So they believe that this probably was what they referred to as the cell, but they're not sure. And that pretty much sums up the basement. And the basement is, that's enough, isn't it?
Yeah, that is enough. We can get out of here.
Thank you, because it's not my favorite area.
Yeah, we are gone.
Not a chicken, but
Just trying to find my way out.
I don't know about you guys, but I've been an intuitive since I was a child. I've always been an intuitive, and this area just skeeves me out. I can't take it. We'll go back upstairs. In this hallway, often they'll see shadow figures and stuff because this is where the Joker or Rusty or whoever is that person lives.
Now, I noticed that with my lights, I am throwing shadows and it's not throwing my eyesight in a way of one. What is that kind of thing? You know, is it, and it's the light movement of my camera and everything else.
Right. And, you know, and also, if you shoot into a light source, which we headed towards some of the IR lights and the other lights, you're going to get flares that look like orbs, dust, bugs, things like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're having a hard time controlling humidity in this place. They're working on it. So you're going to see the old peeling paint, and little by little, they're working on different areas in the building. That's it. That's the basement. We've concluded our tour.
Yes. And that is it for the walkthrough.
This is honestly one of my favorite places to go. And back to home base.
I am telling you that there's a smell of, what is the smell? What it smells?
Musty.
Musty, and different rooms have different smells.
Yeah, they do. I think the basement area is quite damp, so the closer to the basement we are, we kind of get that mildewy smell.
The upstairs, that other room where the guys were at, that had like a stranger smell to it. I noticed.
It's hard to tell, and I'm sure, you know, like we need to note that as we investigate. Smells, shadows, sounds, intelligent responses, you know, all of that stuff goes into, and hopefully we can piece things together. And we can back up previous stories. That's our whole point.
All right, folks, that's it for the tour. We'll see you on the investigation.
Okay, great.
I'm not afraid anymore. Oh, I hope you can see.